Today's episode is presented by Lodestar, the fee experts.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of Lending Leaders. My name is Alayna Gardner, and this week I have Jimmy King, the CEO of BankingBridge, to talk to us a little bit about transparency in the mortgage industry, along with what he's doing over there at BankingBridge. So thank you so much, Jimmy, for joining me today.
Thanks, Alana, for having me and BankingBridge tell our story. Excited about it.
Of course. So right now in the world of mortgage, for both borrowers and lenders, we're really seeing a lot about rates. And rates aren't something really we can't control. We're facing a lot of challenges with inventory shortages and just people not being able to afford a mortgage at the higher interest rate. But how do you pivot the conversation to things like transparency and education for borrowers to try and capture what we can?
Well, I think the biggest shift that we see is that anybody that's under the age of 45 or 50 has been shopping on Amazon since they were 35 years old. And they're used to comparing product and price or having their experience, whether it's on Amazon or their favorite online store. So it is about rates. Hey, rates have gotten higher and it's more expensive across the board to buy a house than it was 2 years ago. But the trend in general is you have to meet the consumer where they want to be met, which is having an experience on your website that is something similar to Shopify or something similar to Amazon, where you can compare pricing. It gives people a reason to come back. They can look at price and product next to each other. That's the very beginning. If you're a mortgage lender today and you're opening up your brokerage or you're a bank or you're a credit union, how do you engage those members and those customers in a more interesting way? It's rates. Nobody, what we always talk about, make a joke about is nobody wants to read your spaghetti blog that you send out with your monthly recipe. It's just not as compelling as, hey, here's a specific rate about your scenario. Here's how much money you could save, or here's how much home you can afford. So that's really why it is a focus on affordability, but it's more about meeting the consumer with their needs based on their past experience of the last 10 years and shopping online.
Yeah. I think, as a millennial myself, it's definitely frustrating to feel, Zillow is one of the only places you can find those things readily available online. And as we all know in the industry, Zillow's wrong a lot. So really that ends up with frustrated borrowers when they're going to a mortgage lender and saying, why is my mortgage so different than what Zillow's told me it was going to be for property taxes or anything like that? And I know the numbers are hard, right? We all know the numbers are hard, but I think you guys have a great solution. So I think shifting the perspective from how do I survive to here are some values, tools, and strategies as a mortgage lender, how do you shift their mindset of just, I need to have the most competitive offer on the table to, no, we can just provide education.
Right. It is. We're in a survival environment. The year of 2023 has been survival of the fittest. And how can you get another opportunity? How can you have one more conversation with, whether it's someone online or someone that you meet at the grocery store? As a mortgage lender, that's critical right now. And opening the door in your website, because your website is your office. A lot of people are working from home. Most mortgage companies are shifting away from more retail branches to a more online focused brand or experience. And if that's your shift, then how are you going to reach all those people online? How are you going to get in front of them with interesting information? And the more chances, the more opportunities that you do that, the more places that you do that, whether it's your website or a partner website, you're going to have more, you're going to give your loan officers more opportunities to have those discussions and start those conversations. So it is a challenging market. Inventory's very tight. Takes 6-9 months for people to really close on a loan or buy a house. But you have to start somewhere. And if you're not having conversations today that will lead to closings in 9 months, what are you doing? Because you're not going to find those deals that close in 30 to 60 days. They're just hard to find. So you really have to think about nurturing, educating, giving people a reason to come back to your website or your web experience.
Yeah, I know. I know personally. My husband and I are looking to buy a house probably in the next 2 years. That's not an invitation for LOs to email me. Please don't. Um, but because of that, we're doing the math backwards, right? How much do we need to have in a down payment to get to the mortgage rate we want to have and we feel like we can comfortably afford, right? And really, doing that math was hard, right? I feel like if I wasn't in the industry, I would have gone to Zillow, and because I couldn't find it on a lot of lenders' websites. And I know rates are going to change, but at the same time, it's nice to be able to know, hey, this is actually how much money I need to have down with my closing costs and all of that to really get what I can afford in my area. And I think capturing the millennial/Gen Z buyer is what we're all talking about here.
Yeah. Well, to that point, to your point is, you're 2 months out, you're 18 months out, and the only resource that you have to find somewhat of comparison shopping is Zillow, Bankrate, NerdWallet. Those are the places that you will spend a lot of time on, or you could start to get in their sphere because they're all over the internet. You're searching online, you're searching anonymously, and you just cannot get that same experience on your local lender's website, or maybe your somewhere that you're trying to shop. So then therefore you have to continue to go back to Bankrate, you have to continue to go back to Zillow to find those that experience that you're looking for, to look at rates. And you're a great example. We're taking that experience that you would have on sites like Zillow or Bankrate with comparison shopping, and we're plugging it in to credit unions and banks and mortgage lenders' websites, so then their site becomes sticky, and it gives you a reason to come back to them. Versus
I love my bank.
else.
I love my credit union. I actually do business with both. I have different things in different places, and neither of them have that type of solution as an option, right? I would have to inquire about a mortgage. And for me, I'm 2 years out. I don't want you hounding me every 2 months for the next 2 years. I just want to know so I can do my budget and I can save appropriately over the next 2 years to hit my financial goals. So do you see lenders who prioritize this kind of transparency have additional or increased competition in the market?
So the number one question we get is this is all great, but I'm concerned that if I put my rates on my website, I'm not as concerned about customers looking there. I'm concerned about my competition coming to my website and looking at my rates versus their rates. But here's what we've learned is, are people going to shop you? Yes. Do people shop you right now with no rates on your website, with no investment? Of course they do. Of course they do, because you can Google mortgage rates and get 10 million results. They just want to know that they're getting a competitive offer. That's where you should start. Am I getting a competitive offer from this bank? And they're going to shop you regardless. And that's only going to get more into the future. A year from now, 2 years from now, 3 years from now, it's going to be easier and easier and easier for people to comparison shop. So is it competitive? Of course it's competitive, but the consumer is smart. They're savvy. They're not, it's not 2010 where you had to call the bank to get a rate. Rates are out there. And, we just believe that if the consumer wants it, the lenders will eventually come around to meeting the consumer's demands, because they're just going to eventually lose business if they don't start to play in the game.
Whoever makes it the easiest for me to get a mortgage is most likely to get my business. Let's be real.
That's right. The easiest, and it's no different than when you go to Home Depot or go to wherever you go shop for groceries. If there's a line at the where you have to meet somebody to go check out of 10 people, but then you go to self-checkout and there's nobody there, well, you're going to go to self-checkout. It's the same thing with your mortgage. If we all have to stand in line to call somebody to get a rate, wait for them to call us back, we're probably not going to wait in that line very long. We're going to go to the place where there's less friction, where I can view rates, I can get some of my answers to my questions. But it is competitive. Hey, it's a competitive business. That in general, mortgage is very competitive. But if you can meet the consumer where they want to be met, your chances of converting them increase greatly.
100%. So I think we've talked a little bit about why someone would hide their fees, because they're just trying to honestly prevent them being undercut. But what developments have you kind of seen over the last, let's say 5-10 years, have kind of sent some lenders looking towards offering that increased transparency, right? Your early adopters with that.
Well, it's the right thing to do. I mean, that's where it starts. And I think it's so hard, and I sound like a great, but it's so hard to pull the wool over consumers' eyes today because there is so much transparency. They can follow someone on Instagram, they can follow someone on TikTok, they can follow a blog, they can watch a YouTube video on, hey, these are some of the fees that your lender may not be telling you about. If you give them the information that they need up front, if you build that trust and you build that transparency, it's going to increase the overall chances of them converting from just a website visitor to a lead. So we feel like your example from you is you're 2 years out, you're on Zillow or you're shopping for houses on whatever website, real estate platform where you are. The goal is to be able to take some of our lender customers and push them further up the funnel with transparency into someone that's 12 months out or 18 months out, so that you can start to really get a better understanding of like, hey, these are my fees. Like, this is my settlement fees. These are my state specific fees. These are my lender fees. And right now it's very difficult to get an actual fee sheet from a lender without having to have a conversation with that lender, where you actually have to talk 100%. To them on the phone. It's probably one of the hardest things to get. Like, hey, I want to know, what are my total fees? Not just lender fees.
I estimated my lender fees. I went into our calculator. I pulled title. Yeah. I pulled all of my fees, and I was like, okay, well, it's going to be X amount of basis points roughly for my lender charges, but a normal consumer isn't going to have that information, right? And I think that's so important. And coming from the wedding industry, and that was my background, is we would give people these charts of 24 months out from your wedding. Here's what you should be doing. And I think there's an opportunity for some lenders to take that space of, if you're a borrower 2 months out saying, how am I going to afford a home? My rent's astronomical. My rent keeps going up. I want to be able to put myself in the financial position to do this. I'll cut things out. I'll work extra hours. If you don't give people a target of how much money that is, they're going to assume it's hopeless. Yeah.
And you think you've really only, so if you're in a 12-month buying cycle or an 18-month buying cycle, and you're excited, you go from Zillow, and then maybe 3 months into that, you're 8 months out from closing. Now you're working with a realtor. You really haven't talked to a lender, but you have some ideas. And then you don't really start moving into the lender's like sphere until maybe 5 months out. And then you get serious. You're like, all right, probably need to get my credit pulled. This realtor's saying I need to get pre-qualified. I've got a couple of lenders online that I've been talking to. And then maybe there's this local guy a person that I want to talk to. That's when you shift into the human, like maybe you're starting to maybe interact, chat, something with a human being. You still have no idea how much it's going to cost you to close on this loan. You just don't. And the funny part is you really don't know that until like 3 days before closing, sometimes a week before closing. You still don't know. And hey, we're not going to have every single fee on our side. You guys do a great job with some things, but there's still some things that can change. But you should have at least like 95%, 90% of what's happening in the transaction. 6 months out?
Can we get within 10%, like six to 8 months out, right? Like that 10% tolerance is something that if we could hit that 6 to 8 months out without a regulation, right? Yeah. I think it would really increase trust in the mortgage industry from consumers, right? Because we're also kind of still rehabbing our image. I remember the 2008 recession. I think everyone and Gen Z might not at this point. They're a little young, but it's definitely something that millennials have very much at top of mind is, we're looking at this recession and the cost of housing and saying, is it going to happen again? Right. And I don't think so personally, but it's definitely things I've seen online.
And it's probably the last industry where you have to talk to somebody on the phone or have a conversation via email to get fees, which is kind of 100%. Crazy. Like the car business has shifted, home insurance has shifted, online shopping has shifted, everything's super transparent down to like your shipping fees and this fee and even Ticketmaster. It's like, your fees cost more than the ticket, but at least you have all your fees.
At least you know what they are.
Right. So the mortgage industry is kind of the last giant to make the transition and we're hopefully helping lead that charge in some way.
Awesome. Well, as we wrap up here today, we like to ask our very exciting question. So a lodestar means a guiding light. It's what our company was named after. So we like to ask our guests, what is your guiding light? What gets you up in the morning? And what guides what you do every day?
Well, I was thinking about that. I was a loan officer for 15 years. So I've put those shoes on every day, 100% commission. Since I graduated college. And the thing that gets me, the guiding light is I remember how hard it was to make change at all at a mortgage company or in the mortgage industry. And there is a lot of satisfaction in helping the customers that we do have start to make the change that they've been waiting for like 10 years. And that's what's inspiring to us, and that's what it gets me out of the bed is I have a chance to help, this small little niche group to try to make it better. And coming as a loan officer where I've come from is it's easy to get up out of bed and help other people because it's so difficult to make changes in the mortgage industry. So that's kind of for me, that's my guiding light is providing that change to our customer base.
Yeah. Small incremental change can make a big difference over time for sure.
Yep.
Well, thank you so much, Jimmy, for joining me. Where can people find you online?
Yeah, check us out, BankingBridge.com. We just updated our website looks great. A lot of information there.
It's very
check
pretty.
out our products. You can thank you. You can demo the products. We also you can follow us on Instagram or LinkedIn. We do some video stuff, lots of video things there. So that would be great.
Awesome. Well, thank you everyone for listening this week. We'll be back next week with another episode. And please join us if you'll be attending the MBA annual conference. We on Sunday, October 15th from 7:30 to 9:30 will be at Spin Philadelphia for the Independence Block Party. So we're really excited for that. It's the first time Lodestar is throwing an event at MBA annuals. So we'd really like to see a lot of people there. We will have a ping pong tournament and prizes. So we're really excited for that. And vendors do get to try and win the prizes. I want to say that. It's always important. So thank you so much, Jimmy, for joining me again today. And thank you all for listening, and we'll see everybody next week.